You are now tuned in to Papi Chulo Radio. You are now tuned in to Papi Chulo Radio, your web portal for the best in pop culture news and interviews.
Your dreams have now been fulfilled.
The following is a Papi Chulo Radio original program.
Welcome to the Spotlight with Jeffrey Arauz, a PapiChuloRadio.com and iTunes exclusive. Get up close and personal with some of your favorite pop culture personalities on the Spotlight with Jeffrey Arauz. Created by PapiChuloRadio.com owner Jeffrey Arauz, this Spotlight showcases exclusive interviews with some of the most talented entertainers. You will come closer than ever before to your favorite celebrity personalities in this exclusive interview series. Here's your host, Jeffrey Arauz.
Welcome to the Spotlight with Jeffrey Arauz. Today is Tuesday, July 25th, 2017. Listeners, please welcome director, producer, writer, stunt coordinator, and martial artist, R.L. Scott. Welcome to the show, R.L.
Thanks, Jeffrey. It's great to be here, man. I've been really excited about talking to you, so I'm really glad to be here.
Fantastic. I'm really excited about chatting with you as well. You've been doing some really great, action-packed, rich stories that have been put to film, and I'm looking forward to what's coming next because you have some really interesting projects that are going to be released in the very near future and in the not so near future. But I'm super pumped to have you on to discuss sort of everything. I'm going to allow our listeners to get to know who R.L. Scott is.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So I'm going to start off with a very simple question. How long have you been in the entertainment industry?
I'd say roughly about 25 years now.
Okay, awesome. Very cool. And can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? Who is R.L. Scott?
Oh, man. Well, I'm, at my core, I guess I'm an artist. Like, I started really, really young. When I was about 15 years old, actually, I was just a huge fan of Hong Kong cinema and foreign cinema in general. And so I think that's sort of when I got bit with that bug, you know. Being a martial artist, I started studying martial arts at a very, very, very early age, maybe 6 or 7. And so martial arts and film were kind of my first loves. And it was interesting being that age and studying martial arts, and all my heroes were Asian. And so at 15, I sort of made this vow that I was going to put heroes on the screen that looked like me but fought like them. So that's kind of originally like how everything started for me. I sort of made that decree and just didn't look back, you know.
I like that. I like that a lot. So before we get deeper into our exclusive Spotlight interview, here's our announcer with some special announcements.
Thank you for downloading this Spotlight with Jeffrey Arauz. Here are a few helpful reminders. Binge listen to your favorite Papi Chulo Radio podcasters discussing some of your favorite television shows. Visit PapiChuloRadio.com/podcasts for a complete list of all the podcasts that we produce. You will get up-to-date information on whether the podcast is currently releasing new episodes or if it's on hiatus. You will also be able to click a link to either take you to iTunes or the Papi Chulo Radio archives to download the podcast. To binge listen to your favorite Papi Chulo Radio podcasts, visit PapiChuloRadio.com/podcasts. Would you like to be one of the podcasters on this podcast discussing your favorite television show? Email talent@poppychularadio.com. We are always looking for new voices to add to our collection of podcasts. To become a co-host, you must be at least 18 years old. You must be comfortable sharing your opinions. And you must be comfortable using Skype. There's no podcast experience required. So if you think you have what it takes to be a Poppy Chula Radio on-air personality, email talent@poppychularadio.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
This is a Poppy Chulo Radio special announcement. PoppyChuloRadio.com is currently looking to expand its web presence, and we're looking for your help. If you're a fan of Poppy Chulo Radio and its signature series, please visit GoFundMe.com/PoppyChuloRadio and help us with our campaign. Every dollar amount donated will be improving the Poppy Chulo Radio experience and making it more interactive and user-friendly. We thank you in advance for your support. This has been a Poppy Chulo Radio special announcement. We now return you to our regularly scheduled programming.
Back to you, Mr. Arauz.
Thanks, announcer. All right, RL. So, where are you originally from?
I actually was born in America, but I grew up in Bahia, Salvador, Bahia, Brazil. And I would sort of go back and forth, though. My father lived in Brazil. My mom was in America, so I would spend my summers in America. And so, yeah, spent a lot of time traveling. And then eventually, at around 16 years old, I sort of ended up staying here for good. Because I wanted to pursue like a film career, and I knew that my chances were a little bit better here in terms of being able to get the right sort of information and education and that sort of thing. So it really sort of shaped my view of the world and also like the way I make films. I'm sort of known for having a very global approach, or a very faceted, multicultural approach to the types of projects I make, and sort of my view on films in general. I don't really see any type of color line. I feel like that's something I try not to really focus on too much. I think that heroes or whatever type of character it is, it doesn't matter, what the race of that character is. But at the same time, it's very important to have like really strong representation globally, and that's sort of what drew me to making movies in the superhero genre, which is what I'm beginning to do now.
That's awesome. Very cool. So as you were growing up and you basically spent the majority of the year in Brazil, and then you would come to the United States in the summer, was there at all sort of like a culture shock for you?
Yeah, I think there were some things, yeah. I didn't realize how militant I was until I sort of got here in the States and had some interactions with some people. I was very sort of a very introverted kid and very much in my own imagination. But I was always sort of ready for a fight, unfortunately. I was pretty focused. People thought I was angry or mean all the time, but it was really because I was just really, really focused and sort of in my head. And I noticed that people would talk a lot more here. And, where I was from, it was, if someone was going to do something to you, they'd just do it. You know what I mean? Like, I think that was sort of the biggest culture shock, is that people were a lot more boisterous here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it I got in quite a few fights as a kid because of that. I think it was sort of kind of annoying to me. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
once I kind of understood what was going on, I was like, okay, this is more of a cry for help, is what that is, you know. And so I was able to sort of diffuse situations a lot better once I sort of understood that, you know.
Yeah, that's understandable. So growing up, where did this passion for like taking these stories that you had in your head and like putting them to paper, and then like that passion for, you know, taking what's on the paper and putting it into the screen, like where did that passion come from?
I think at its core, I really believe it was just not enough representation. I think I felt like there was it was a bit unequal, I guess you could say. You know, I didn't see enough African American heroes, enough Latin heroes, enough Asian American heroes. You know, I just felt like it was disproportionate, you know, and so I wanted to do something about it. You know, it was something that really affected me, you know, and I felt like as an artist, if you have the ability to tell stories, I feel like it's up to you, you know, to tell those stories and not sort of look to anyone else to tell your story.
Mm-hmm. Was there a specific moment in your life when you made that decision? Like, can you remember the moment where you were like, you know what, this is what I want to pursue. I want to pursue directing. I want to pursue producing. I want to pursue writing. I want to make these stories a reality.
I think it was. I think there was one film. It was the oddest thing. But there was a film. I think it was in the 80s. It was sort of at the time when you had Hong Kong cinema, and they were sort of partnering with martial artists in America to sort of produce these straight-to-DVD movies. And there was a film called King of the Kickboxers. And Billy Blanks was like the lead villain in this film. And seeing Billy Blanks fight like a Hong Kong action star in this film, it like literally just blew my mind. Like I had never seen anything like it. Because I was so used to seeing, you know, Jet Li and Donnie Yen and Sammo Hung and Jackie Chan, you know, do these type of fights. And to see an African American martial artist like with the sort of pacing and the style of Hong Kong cinema, which is like very fast, very fluid, high energy, is very different from, I guess, sort of like the Western approach to fight sequences, or at least at the time. You know, this is before The Matrix and before those type of films had come to America and sort of changed the way that they approach action in America. And so to see an African American character fight like that was just completely, you know, new, and it just really, I think, cemented everything for me. Everything that I sort of felt and everything I was thinking, and I think that was the moment that really, there was just no turning back after that.
Let's talk a little bit about what was leading up to your first sort of gig in the entertainment industry. What was going on with your life prior to entering the business?
Well, it started, like I said, really young. I think around 15, and I started. The first thing I did was I bought a Betamax camera, and so I would write these short scripts, and then I would get my friends together on the weekends and direct these shorts and choreograph these fight scenes and kind of shoot these little scenes on Betamax. And I would use like these Betamax cassette recorders to sort of edit the shorts, and then I'd use like a boombox to put music on the shorts. And so I was always very hands-on. I started like really early, just sort of really having my hands in everything. Because I had a very sort of strong vision of the type of things that I wanted to make really early on. So that was sort of the first initial process for me growing up, and then going to the libraries, checking out every single book I could on filmmaking. I'd also get books on photography, because I think photographers are some of the best lighting people like in the world. So I just, wanted to learn everything I could. When I went to high school, I took clothing and textiles. I wanted to learn how to make wardrobe. I took creative writing. Anything I could, just from an early age. This is way before YouTube came along, and sort of, everything you could ever want to learn was on YouTube now. But back then, there was no YouTube, so you really had to sort of seek out this information.
Yeah, you put in the work. You actually had to do real research, not, Google and click, or YouTube and click.
Yeah. And you had to sort of, I think a lot of what filmmaking is troubleshooting and finding solutions to problems. There's always some problem that comes up, and you have to sort of be really fast and be able to sort of figure things out. And that really helped a lot in terms of how fast I am on set now. I'm very fast, very efficient, because I started out there was sort of no blueprint at the time. How do you do this? How do you edit this footage? How do you put music onto this footage? How do you, there are all these interesting sort of problems, and you just had to sort of work through it and find solutions, which is really cool, and it still serves me to this day. All those things that I learned just as a kid, just figuring things out and finding a way to do something grand. Even if you don't have the resources to, there's always a way.
That's very true. Yeah, absolutely, man. So what would you consider to be your first big break in the entertainment industry?
Well, when I started out, when I got to LA, which was probably, I think at this point, maybe 9 years ago, I had already actually produced a couple feature films on my own. That's when the DVD craze was, it was still really big. Blockbuster videos were still around and stuff like that. I had already sort of produced and distributed a couple features and some shorts and different things like that, just on my own. And so, but when I came to LA, that's when things really sort of took off, you know what I mean? I spent a few years in Atlanta, produced a few feature films, because I think at that point I had made maybe 40 short films, and I kind of took the route a lot of people did in terms of doing a lot of music videos and shooting weddings and all those different things. Really, I'd done that stuff for quite a while, and so once I got to the point where I started producing feature films, my first movie was Champion Road. That was back in maybe 2007, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was about 2007. I think it came out maybe 2009, and then I did a sequel to that. And so I before I decided to really come to Hollywood and really make that full transition, I'd already done some feature films and some other stuff. So, I think my first kind of big break was, some connections I had made. It sort of led me to being able to direct some stuff for television. I worked with TV One and a couple other stations, and I was able to direct a few TV episodes and things like that. So that's those were sort of, I guess, like the first things that really sort of made the needle move for me. I think in terms of Hollywood was being able to direct some television.
Was there ever a moment when you felt that you weren't going to make it in the industry?
Interestingly enough, like I never sort of I never looked at it that way. I guess because I had sort of made my mind up so early in life that I never really thought about that. Like I always keep pushing forward. I knew one thing I did know though. I knew it would be a little more difficult for me based on the type of films I make. Because I think the type of films I make are sort of against agenda. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, putting certain images on screen, showing people of color in a very strong light. I knew that it was going to be somewhat of an uphill battle to get those types of films funded. I knew I could have sort of taken an easier route, told stories that are a little more typical, but that's not really, that's not where my passion was, you know what I mean? So I kind of knew I would have a harder road to travel, and I sort of accepted early on that was just going to be the case. And I felt like if I could just connect with the audience, connect directly with an audience, then I would be okay no matter what. Because ultimately, it's the audience that sort of buys the tickets. They're the ones that support these films. They're the ones that decide what they think is good and what they think is not. So I didn't see it so much as the Hollywood system would be an issue. It was more of finding an audience, connecting with that audience, and then being able to create things that people would want to see. And I felt like if I could create things that people want to see, then, I always felt like I'd be fine.
I like that. I love the confidence. And I believe if you really believe in yourself and if you believe in your vision, like only good can come from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, as someone who is working his ass off, was doing all of these shorts, was as you said, doing the wedding circuit, filming weddings and music videos and whatnot. What was it like to see your first title, the first title that you directed, as a completed product? What was that like for you?
That was a huge moment for me. I remember when I finished my first feature, I had a screening locally. I think I might have went to maybe 3 or 4 cities, and I rented a theater, and because I got distribution on DVD, but I wanted to have that experience of I was in love with just being in the theater and that whole theater experience of
the big screen,
work on it. The big screen, surround sound and all these people, and, being able to see that energy and how people respond to things, and if people got it, if they got the jokes, if they cry when they were supposed to, if they laugh when they were supposed to, that type of feeling, just being able to be there with a live audience was just amazing. And the first time that happened, that was just it for me, man. It's a feeling you just can't describe. It's very rewarding as an artist, to know that people get it, they connect with your work, and I think Hampton Road was the first time that happened. It was an amazing feeling. And I was like, wow, I need this again. It's pretty intoxicating.
I believe it.
Which is, that's as close as I get to intoxication. I don't drink or smoke, so that high is like, that's the closest thing that I've been,
Yeah, it's an incredible feeling of accomplishment. You know, this thing that you've been working on for several months or even years, depending on how long the idea has been in your brain,
Yeah.
you know, to finally see it on the screen, it must feel amazing.
Yeah, because there's so much, you give so much to it. You know, it's like a piece of your soul is
Yeah,
in
it's your
every,
child.
like in every film. Yeah, yeah, it really is. Yeah.
That's awesome. As an artist and a writer, what inspires you?
I think that I've always been really connected to sci-fi and horror action and you know, anything sort of extraordinary. Like I've always been very connected to those themes. But at the core of it, like characters, like really great characters, is I feel like that's really the heart of any story. Like no matter how fantastic it might be, I've always been interested in creating really unique and really interesting characters. So for me, yeah, I think that, you know, being able to create a world, I think I've done films where they sort of exist in the real world and a world that's sort of more grounded in what we're sort of used to. And I feel like I think that's why I think in the industry a lot of films that are sort of purely drama aren't as interesting anymore, because I think people have told so many stories in that space that people feel like there's not a whole lot more there that we haven't seen yet. Whereas in you know, any world that's sort of sci-fi or supernatural or extraordinary, there's really no limit to what you can do or the type of story you can tell. And so I think that's why those genres have sort of taken off at this point. And we see sort of less and less of the straightforward narratives in theaters now, because there isn't a lot of room to play in those spaces, you know. And I also think that people, it's about escapism, and a lot of times films that deal with more grounded themes are a little too close to home. Like if you've lost people in your lifetime, you felt a lot of loss, or any of those things, I think they sort of might hit a little too close to home. And so people may not want to sit in that space for an hour and a half or 2 hours and, you know, watch a film about a grieving parent or somebody dying of cancer or things like that, because I think, you know, these are things that we deal with in life, and, you know, it might sort of dredge up too much stuff, you know, that people may not want to feel at that moment. You know, they're already trying to suppress that. So I think it's just escapism. I think it's what sort of made these genres as popular as they are, because you know, it's so far from reality that we can just go in and sort of enjoy it. We don't have to feel too much pain, you know what I mean, or feel too much. You know, it's not as close to home as sort of some of these other films. So, you know, I mean, at least that's sort of the way I see it. I think that, I think that's the reason why the industry has sort of gone the way it has.
That was a really good answer, RL. I like it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I feel like directors and producers, they each have their own sort of distinct styles. Like, you know, a Shonda Rhimes production based on Shonda Rhimes' style. You know what to expect when you're seeing, you know, a Scorsese film, a Hitchcock film, a Spike Lee joint, a John Singleton film. You can kind of know where they're going based on their previous work, because they have sort of like their distinct like stamp that they put on their picture. So I'm curious to ask you, how would you describe your style of filmmaking?
That's a very good question.
Thank you. I try.
Yeah, I think that I think my lighting has a lot to do with I guess the way that people sort of interpret my style. You know, somewhat stylized. Like I like extreme colors, and I like a certain amount of grittiness and texture to the world. You know, but yeah, I would say more of a graphic novel style, more of a I think even some of my early work was sort of leaning into sort of like comic book genre, and even if it had nothing to do with it, I think the way that I sort of approach it, um, you know, I like really strong lighting, and I like my action to sort of be fast and furious and kind of intense, and you know, yeah, I guess, you know, my biggest influences have probably been David Fincher, Christopher Nolan, Zack Snyder, Wilson Yip, who's a huge Hong Kong director. And then as far as my fight choreography, I think my biggest influences have been Donnie Yen, Yin Wu Ping, Lau Gao Lung. So people like that, I think, have really sort of shaped, even subconsciously, just like my style of filmmaking. It's sort of a mixture of East and West, I think. You know, I sort of try to blend the two. But definitely, as I've gotten older, it's much more of a graphic novel style approach, slightly noirish approach to filmmaking. You know, just the look of my films now.
You mentioned choreography, and you have been the stunt choreographer for quite a few productions. So, what goes into choreographing a good and believable fight sequence?
I think it all starts with story and character. I always start there and sort of build out. You know, what's the motivation of the character? Where are they from? What type of influences would they have had growing up? All that stuff sort of affects their style of fighting. Or is it aggressive? Is it more from a place of not wanting to hurt people? Is it, you know, all those things are sort of informed by story and character. And so I always start there, and you know, I keep these binders, I guess you could say, for each character, and you know, I look at a fight scene as it's still a dramatic scene. You know what I mean? It still has to tell a story. That fight, it's, you know, it can't just be kicking and punching for the sake of it, but there has to be a goal. Each person who's fighting, what are they fighting for? You know, who are they fighting for? What's their agenda? What are they looking to accomplish through physicality? And so it definitely starts there for me. And once I sort of understand that part of it, I'm able to sort of inject those things into each fight. And I've done, I don't know, at this point, maybe choreographed well over 400 fights at this point, since I was a kid. So, you know, it's a challenge, always sort of finding a fresh sort of new approach to an action sequence. And I've been experimenting a lot more lately. But yeah, it sort of starts there with the basic building blocks, and then I have a team that I work with, and you know, we sort of get together and we start choreographing the action, sort of working out the beats, finding the finding the shots, and yeah, we do rehearsals. I don't like to do too much rehearsal because I still want it on the day to feel real and like it and unrehearsed, you know. And I think if you work the fight too much, it can feel extremely choreographed or really over rehearsed. So I don't like to rehearse it too many times. Like once we've sort of blocked everything out and gone through it a few times, I sort of I don't like to touch it until the day of, because the closer you can get to that spontaneity and breaking up the rhythm in the fight scene and making it feel more real, the better, you know.
Something that I have to give you props on is these incredible characters that you've created. Like, all of the characters that are featured in your productions are very rich. They're filled with substance. They're very strong characters. So how difficult is it to cast the right actor for the right role?
I actually do sort of a lot of private casting. Like I don't do too many huge sort of casting calls and that sort of thing. I like to really handpick every single actor, and I like to get to know actors. I like to get to know a lot of actors, just personally, because it always helps to. For me, I like to get an overall picture of who the person is and what strengths they have, and so I'd say, yeah, most of my casting has come from just getting to know a lot of actors, and you have certain actors like, okay, I really want to work with you. This isn't the right project, but you know, I have you in mind for something. You know, like you fit this particular type of role, and you know, so for me, it's I'm very hands-on as far as really trying to marry the right actor to the right role, and I think if you cast well, most of your job is done. You know, like if you find, and I really respect really great actors. You know, that's something that is most vital to me, because your film sort of lives or dies based on who's playing those roles and if they're interesting, if people even want to take the time to watch these people. You know, are they believable? Do you believe this person in this role? Do they fit? You know what I mean? And so yeah, that's a huge part of the process, is just getting the right actors in the roles. And yeah, but it's something I definitely feel is a sacred thing. You know, I don't take it lightly at all.
Something that always gets me curious is why people name things, you know, in a specific way. I really love the name of your production company. I think it's awesome, and I'm just kind of curious, where did that name come from?
I would say I think I took that name on in 1998, and so so here's the thing. At that age, I was really just, I think, angry in a way at you know, not yeah, I say angry. I'm not gonna clean it up. I was angry at the way I felt like the industry had sort of misrepresented people of color. And so the reason I named my company Shadow Motion Pictures is because I felt like at that time, you know, I think we were portrayed in a certain way. You know, there was sort of this, we had great films in the 90s, and then something happened, something changed, and things became very negative. And I think the portrayal of men of color especially, there was sort of this war on our image, and we were being looked at more as just animals and just evil and criminals and this all of this stuff. And I felt like women of color were being very sexualized, and we no longer had like fully realized characters. They had become more just sort of stereotypical. The way that people wanted to see us as opposed to who we really were. And so I felt like who we really were sort of in the shadows at that point, and I wanted to sort of bring us from the shadows into the light. That's sort of that's how I came up with the name Shadow Motion Pictures, because I just felt like a true representations of who we really were sort of cast in the shadows at that point, and there was a different agenda, to sort of paint us in a negative light, or from a position of not loving our families, not being good fathers, not being able to get along, not all these different things that really sort of took over, and it's sort of the norm now. You know what I mean? I just felt like it was my mission to sort of to do my part to sort of change that narrative.
We've got to talk about Call Me King, man, because Call Me King was insane. It was so good. It was action-packed. It was just gripping and gritty and raw and insane. I mean, I have to give you major props on Call Me King. And if I'm not mistaken, it remained like one of like the top recommendations on Netflix for a while, man. Like, people were like streaming the heck out of Call Me King. So major props on that.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Really
You're welcome.
That.
Yeah, major props. So let's talk a little bit about this amazing international action flick, Call Me King. Where did the idea come from, and what was your reaction to like this insane sort of like positive wave that came your way once it started to stream on Netflix?
Oh yeah. Initially, the idea was a short film, and it actually took place in London, and there were two lead characters who were brothers, and they were British, and one of them used to be sort of in this life, and then he saw his younger brother sort of being pulled in, and so he sort of left that life to sort of rescue his younger brother. So it initially started out as sort of that very straightforward sort of concept. They were gun runners, and because I felt like had sort of things taking place in the drug world and that sort of thing. Like, I think we had seen that quite a bit, but I felt like we hadn't seen very many gun runners, that were people of color. So I wanted to sort of do something a little bit different. And it sort of the seeds of it sort of started there, and from there it evolved into a web series called To You Point that I did like back in 2010, 11 or something like that, 2011. And I produced this web series. It did really well. Like it found an audience really quickly. Which was very cool. It had a very faithful sort of this core audience that really dug it. And if an episode it came out, I had an episode air like every Tuesday at 1, and if it was like 1:05, I get flooded with these emails like, yo, where's the episode? Like, so it was cool to see that people cared, and these characters, people really latched onto them. And, at the time I was working with Eamon Joseph, who was ultimately became my partner on Call Me King. And we had done the first season. We sat down. I think we were doing ADR for like the last episode. And we sort of talked about it, and you know, we talked about where I felt like I'd only told. It was interesting because it was my first web series, and because at that point I was more of a feature film person,
Mm-hmm.
and so approaching doing that format, it had some good things, and then it had some sort of challenges because you could only tell maybe 7 minutes of story per episode. So it was really cool in the sense that I liked the episodic nature of it, being able to have something come out every week and people sort of learn more about the story each week. But at the same time, because the format is, everything was short, I felt like I couldn't say as much as I wanted to say. I couldn't tell as much story as I wanted to tell in such a small amount of time. So we sort of decided that day that we were going to not only sort of continue the story, but evolve the story and sort of produce a feature film. And so, he became my producing partner on that film. And we started the daunting task of taking this thing and pushing it as far as we could. And what a lot of people don't know is, like, before I made my first short, I was a writer first, you know what I mean? And so what happens sometimes is people will put you in a box. And so when I did the web series, there was no action in it, you know what I mean? Because I felt like at that time, I felt like people were sort of labeling me as just an action director. And I was like, no, I'm a writer first. I'm a director who can do action. I can, but I work in other genres as well. Sci-fi, comedy, any other genre. I feel like you should never be put in a box or allow people to put you in a box. You should be able to do any type of movie you want to do. You know what I mean? So I'm just more known for my action because I'm a fan of action. So most of my films have action in them. So yeah, it was important to me when I approached Call Me King, is that I didn't want it to just feel like an action film. It was much more about the story and the characters and the way that people talk, the way that the level of intelligence they have, like the fact that they're traveled and they're cultured and they have sort of a different approach to the way they talk. And so that was sort of the really important thing about that project, and just approaching it, just being able to sort of express myself with more through my writing. And strangely enough, there was a scene from Call Me King that went viral. I think that's what really sort of pushed the Netflix views over the top. Was there was a scene that the Truth Hurts scene is what it's called now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That scene, I think at this point is probably 60 million views. It just went completely viral, that scene, and I had nothing to do with it. I actually found out, I think when I saw that it gone viral, it was at maybe 30 million views already, and people just took that scene and ran with it. And so I had a lot of fun reading the comments, and people would go, "Yo, what movie is this from?" And then somebody goes, "This is Call Me King on Netflix. Call Me King on Netflix." And so that sort of traveled around, and we were trending for almost a year. It was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Do you see yourself exploring this universe that you created via the web series and now this feature film even more in the future? Do you see yourself maybe revisiting this world and expanding upon it and maybe some sort of continuation to the story?
Well, I actually do have a treatment for Call Me King too. I have a treatment, and that was sort of always the plan. I'm not sure when that would happen. I got kind of a slate right now, and I'm not sure where it would fall into it. But yeah, I definitely have, at least another movie that explores, where those characters are now, and how things have evolved. They're sort of operating on a more global and more international level now. So yeah, I definitely have a really, really great continuation of that story, and hopefully I will make that film.
I like the sound of that.
In the near future. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. If you're ever shooting in Miami, Florida, I would like at least a walk-on role, please. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. So, I'm a big believer in everything is supposed to happen for a reason, and everything is supposed to happen when it's supposed to. So it's fascinating that we are doing this interview this week, because I had already planned on asking sort of like about the state of black cinema in the entertainment industry, like period. But it's really interesting, and the question I think is even more appropriate now because of how well the film Girls Trip did over this past weekend during its debut weekend in theaters. I mean, this was a movie starring 4 black women, and it cost $20 million, and it made $30 million at the box office. And it's a black director, black producer, and the industry in general usually never, I would say, what's the right word? The industry is always surprised when a film with a predominantly cast of color does really well, which always like tickles me a little bit. Like, I remember back in the day, I think Soul Food came out like late 90s, 97-ish maybe, and when Soul Food became like this huge phenomenon in the theaters, the industry is always surprised when a film featuring a predominantly cast of performers of color like does really well, and it always makes me laugh a little bit. So, what is your take on black cinema right now in the entertainment industry? Because I would say there's a little bit of a resurgence, and a lot of shows with predominantly black casts have been doing really well on TV and on streaming services, and a lot of films have been getting the green light with leads that are of color. So, do you think the industry is finally sort of getting it, or are they sort of just, jumping on the bandwagon, and then, once these films sort of come out and are released and whatnot, and, then they'll sort of go back to business as usual? What do you think? Is the industry sort of catching up to the times, finally? Maybe? Sort of?
I think there's a lot of things that contribute to that, and they're coming from sort of a lot of different angles. I think that because the way that we sort of connect and interact has changed. I think between social media, digital technology, distribution models changing, a lot of the old executives sort of stepping down. There's so many things. Like I think it's hilarious that people still get surprised. I just think that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? When you have so many movies that have consistently done well, we not only support from people of color, but just people in general. When you look at a movie like Straight Outta Compton, what that film made. When you look at Get Out, when you look at Hidden Figures and all these films that consistently do well. Like I just don't understand why. Sadly, it's still even a conversation in Hollywood. You know what I mean? It's still this thing of like, I think it's less surprise and more like we want to still continue to sort of control who's on the screen, what's on the screen. You know what I mean? It's sort of it's a little bit of that still, because I think at this point, if you're surprised, that people just, when they finally see a representation of themselves on screen and they go support it, that these films are doing well, like I just think that's insane at this point.
Yeah, you can also like echo what you're saying, like on the small screen, because I remember when Empire debuted, and Empire was a phenomenon, especially its first season. The ratings were insane, and like the trades were all shocked at why Empire was doing so well. Similarly, over on Netflix, I believe Luke Cage broke Netflix the Saturday after it was released.
Yeah, it did. It did. It crashed. Netflix crashed because of the viewership.
Yeah.
And I mean, these are, and I think that in those cases where you've had those successes, a lot of times, like I said, a lot of those older executives have stepped down, so people are looking at the numbers now, and more so than before, people are going with the numbers like, wow, that sort of thing did well. We need to get one of those. We need a Get Out. We need a Empire. We need a, so because those opportunities were there for those shows to come through and those films to come through and people show support, we've gotten, more of that. You know what I mean? And I think, as people of color sort of make their way up the ranks a little more, more producers, more directors, more people in positions of power that can sort of usher in more content. I think we're going to continue to see that flourish. I think also Black Panthers is going to do something really positive for the industry, because this is something that we've never seen. We've always wanted to see, but we haven't seen on this scale before. And what I'm secretly hoping is that it's like the biggest Marvel film ever made, that it makes more money than every single other Marvel movie. And it can be done because people of color are huge consumers. Like we consume, we spend a lot of money, you know what I mean? So I think the repeat viewership on that film is going to be through the roof, and I would love to see that become like the highest grossing Marvel movie in history. I think that would be a nice cherry on top of what we're seeing happening.
I agree. That'd be awesome.
But it's a phenomenal time right now. I think I remember when I started out, there was such a huge disconnect between the studios and what you could do independently. There were so many gatekeepers, so many steps away. Like it just felt like something that was completely unobtainable. And the way digital technology has sort of bridged the gap, the fact that we're all shooting on the same cameras now, the fact that, you can even do, like Call Me King was released theatrically, you know what I mean? And we also were released in theaters in Korea and in Africa. And so when you start to look at the distribution model and how much that's changed, thanks to, Netflix and other companies like that, and when you look at the tools now, the tools are so much less expensive than they used to be. Cameras and lighting equipment, sound equipment, all these things are so much cheaper. the software, the accessibility of software, being able to edit at home, being able to do visual effects and all these different things. And we really have a lot more power than I think a lot of us realize. Like as content creators and as producers, we're in a age now where we're able to produce really high-end projects inexpensively, and ultimately in dealing with distribution, like if the project's good, you're able to get it out there to a lot of people, and so it's just a really great time right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we've touched a little bit on superheroes throughout the interview. So I'm curious to pick your brain on black superheroes and superheroes of color in general, because I would say within the past couple of years, there has been a strong emphasis on bringing diversity into the superhero realm, especially on the small screen and the big screen. On the small screen, we have characters like Mr. Terrific and Wild Dog and Diggle or Spartan. On Arrow, we have James Olsen as Guardian. On Supergirl, we've got Kid Flash. On The Flash, of course, Luke Cage and Misty Knight in the Marvel Netflix universe. And now we're going to be seeing Black Panther with his own feature film over on the DC side of things. Cyborg is going to have his own film in the future as well. What's your take on diversity in the superhero genre?
Yeah, I think it's taken a quite a big turn from where it was before, most certainly. I would say maybe 2 years ago, I opened up a new studio called Wonder Studios, with the goal of sort of creating my own universe of heroes. Because, like, one of the things I noticed is there are a lot of really phenomenal independent content creators out there, or comic book creators, who have like these really, really amazing characters, but because they sort of can't get the same marketing or the same publishing, they may not be as well known as some of the other sort of mainstream comic book houses, and so there are all these really amazing properties out there that I've been sort of connecting with the creators of these really awesome comic books. The Almighty Street Team, that's a feature film. That's actually my next feature film. Is based on like this hit on the ground sort of comic book with 5 comic book creators, and so projects like that, and Dread Society X is another really great one. With Chuck Jeffries, Battle Masters, there's so many really, really amazing stories out there, and I feel like those stories need to be told as well. You know what I mean? So, so Lazarus is sort of like the first hero out of Wonder Studios, and that one is solely mine. That's an original concept that I created, because I have a few characters as well that I want to bring out, but at the same time, there were so many really rich characters out there that I really wanted to bring a lot of those characters to the big screen and small screen as well.
That's awesome, and that's going to be a feature?
Oh yeah.
Very cool.
It'll be a feature film. Yeah, we're looking at so Lazarus is also a feature. We're looking at platforms like Netflix, possibly like a limited theatrical release, and a few other platforms as well. And Street Team will be like following that. So, I'm actually sort of like an early pre-production on Street Team as we speak. We're sort of wrapping Lazarus up. We're in post-production right now. A couple of pickup shots left, but we're already in post, and it's post is like well underway at this point. So
That's awesome. Is there a tentative-ish type of date, or a general sort of like fall, spring type of time frame in which you see that being released? Lazarus in particular.
I would say like early 2018, first quarter for sure. We may be having a screening late this year, maybe between October and December. But as far as like worldwide release, I'd say like early 2018.
Okay, that's awesome. That's very cool. What else is on the docket? What else is next for you, R.L. Scott?
For me, Almighty Street Team. That's definitely next for me. When I came across this property, I was like instantly blown away by it. There are 5 creators of it: Sean Elling, Karan, Curtis, Stanley Weaver, James Mason, and Joseph Curry. And these guys are incredibly talented, man. When I saw the comic, when I saw the images of the characters, I was just instantly blown away because it was so cinematic, and really grounded in it. It was just it really fell in line with all the things I love, and the characters were so well done. In a lot of comic books, the look of the characters is very sort of out there, and so when you translate it to live action, you sort of have to ground it and really change the design to sort of make it fit in the real world. And these guys had already done that. I mean, it already looked like a movie when I saw it, and so I instantly saw vision for it and reached out to those guys, and they've been amazing. We've been developing this project for several years now. Something of this scale takes a lot of prep, and I really want to stay quite faithful in adapting it. And they've just been amazing to work with. They've been like really patient, and they've been really great collaborators, and I'm incredibly excited to start working on this film once Lazarus is done. And I think people are going to be pretty shocked, when they see this one. We definitely got some surprises in store for everyone, but it would be the equivalent of if all the Avengers were people of color, like it's that scale and sort of that feeling. It's a team movie, and I think that it'll be I think it'll be historic in the sense that this will be the first time you see 5 lead heroes of color all together on the big screen at one time.
Good grief, that sounds awesome. That's awesome, man. Very cool. We're definitely going to have you back to chat about both of these amazing productions because they both sound fantastic. I can't wait to see the finished product for both Lazarus and the Almighty Street Team. Good grief. Sounds awesome. I'm really excited for you.
Yeah, I'm just, I have a really great team of people around me, and, we're very much a tribe, we're a family, and, we support each other, and it's just been amazing being able to work with really great people, and to have a great support system and people who believe in the vision, and, yeah, it's just been awesome, man. And you know, I started out as a kid, sort of writing these types of stories in this genre, sci-fi and action, horror action, and then you quickly realize like it would cost way too much to make those films, and so I started pulling back and grounding everything, and to finally be at this point now where I'm beginning to tell those types of stories is just really exciting.
Very awesome, man. So as we start wrapping things up here in this exclusive interview, how can your fans reach you? Where can the listeners find you on the web, social media, websites, all the goodies?
I would say one of the main ways is, of course, Facebook, R.L. Scott on Facebook, Instagram, R.L. Scott, and yeah, I think those two are probably the quickest ways to reach me. I'm always looking for new talent. I'm always looking for great people to work with and collaborate with, and so yeah, if you're an actor, if you're a producer, or anyone who is interested in the industry, like, definitely reach out. I'm easy to find, and I'm actually going to start teaching some seminars next year, passing on some information, because I think that a lot of times, like, especially with people of color, I think a lot of times there's a lot of passion, but there's sometimes there's information that we just don't have. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things, whether it be technical information or whatever it is, that we may not understand. And so for me, everything that I've learned throughout my career, I want to begin to really pass that information on in a bigger way. I've done mentoring, but I really want to be able to sort of put all that stuff together, and maybe over the course of 2 or 3 days be able to just give that information to aspiring producers and filmmakers, and give them very real world, very straightforward information that they can apply right then, and start to see some results. So I'm really excited about that as well.
Very awesome, man. Well, this does bring us to the end of our interview. Is there anything that you would like to say to your fans and supporters?
I would say, I see all of it. I see all the support, the excitement. I just want to say thank you to anyone who's ever watched any of my films, who's ever bought a ticket or bought a DVD, or just took the time to sit down and watch. And, however it may affect you, the fact that you took the time to do that means a lot to me. So I'm going to always continue to sort of push for something greater, and we're just getting started. We got some really, really, really exciting things coming up, and I would say, yeah, just stay tuned.
Very cool, man. Well, I certainly want to thank you so much for the interview, RL.
Oh, thank you so much, brother. It's been fun.
You're welcome, absolutely. And hopefully this is the first of many interviews, because we definitely would love to have you back to discuss some of these projects that you're working on, because they all sound fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'd love to come back, and my partner, Sean Riggs, he's my official partner. He's somebody I've partnered up with, and we're working on like a slate of projects together. Him, Andre McCoy, and my whole team, Kevin Licata, Deanna Rahim, Johnny Alexander, like all these amazing people who just make me look good. Yeah, I just want to give those guys love, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about the future, and what's coming next. So.
Likewise. And listeners, I also want to thank you for tuning into The Spotlight with Jeffrey Arauz. Once again, here's our announcer to remind you on how you can interact with us.
Thank you for downloading this Spotlight with Jeffrey Arauz. Here are a few helpful reminders. Follow Papi Chulo Radio on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, and YouTube at Papi Chulo Radio. Do you have any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns? Email us via contact@papichuloradio.com. Help support Papi Chulo Radio financially by visiting gofundme.com/Papi Chulo Radio. Are you interested in joining the Papi Chulo Radio team as an on-air personality or blog contributor? Email talent@papichuloradio.com. Binge listen to your favorite Papi Chulo Radio programs by visiting papichuloradio.com/archives. For more information on this Spotlight with Jeffrey Arauz, visit papichuloradio.com/this spotlight. You can also download tonight's broadcast and the rest of the series through iTunes. Just search for the Spotlight with Jeffrey Arauz and subscribe. Back to you, Mr. Arauz.
Thanks, announcer. R.L. Scott and I would like to wish you and yours a wonderful night. Good night, listeners.
Good night, guys. Have a great night. Peace.
Thanks for listening. To contact us with any of your questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns, email us at contact@papichuloradio.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 305-515-8620. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter by going to twitter.com/PapiChuloRadio and like us on Facebook by visiting facebook.com/PapiChuloRadio. Be sure to listen again next week as we continue to showcase exclusive interviews with some of pop culture's most popular entertainers. This is Ben Patrick Johnson saying good night and have a wonderful week.